What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Technician Podcast. A really exciting episode today. Shan, straight up, you've been telling me you've got something to tell everyone. I still don't know what it is. What do you got? You've got something to share today. What is it?
I do. I was a stripper for 15 years.
Okay. Right.
Oh, it feels so great to say that.
Fuck. Like, thank you for...
Ow!
And you said that with such confidence too. I felt that there was no, I've been. It was like, nah, I've been this for 15 years.
Yes.
Wow, okay. So today's going to be...
I feel like I need to like stand up and be like, hello, my name is Shannon and I was a stripper.
Can you literally say that right now in that way?
Yeah.
Just like sit up in your chair nice and straight and just fucking declare that.
Hello world. My name is Shannon and I was a stripper for 15 years. Ow!
If you could count or give us a rough estimate on how many people actually know that about you, how many people would that be?
So that's a great question because there would be thousands.
Of course.
And it's been a really long time. I don't talk about it on my social media. It's not something that I broadcast or showcase, and I haven't done for about a decade. And so in that 10 years, no one would know except for the people who give me the jobs and my close friends, right? And though before that, for my active time in the industry, thousands of people knew me at that stage.
Of course. And, I'm sure now that we're 30 seconds into this and people are like, oh my God, like tell me more. What are the stories? Where did it all begin?
Yeah.
Which let's take it back straight to the beginning of like, how did this come about? Where did this begin?
Yes.
Who were you at that time?
I was a beautiful little baby of a girl. I was a girl. At 17, just pre-framing, I didn't start at 17. And though the story begins at 17, I was contracted doing a mine site subsidence surveying in Newcastle towards the Hunter Valley. And my contract ended. And I was 17, making a lot of money for a 17-year-old. I think I was on about $1,800 a week, which is a lot for a 17-year-old, right? And my contract ended, and I was like, oh, fuck, what am I going to do? I was living with my partner. He also got laid off at the time. And we were at the shops, and I walked past a friend of mine who was having lunch with another friend of hers. And that friend owned an agency. And she saw me and was like, wow, you're gorgeous. Here's my card. Come work for me. And I was like, well, I'm 17. She was like, let me know when you're 18. And so I think it was like a month. And I turned 18 and I had contacted her and I was like, I need money. I'm available. I've got no work. I've never done this before. What do I do? And the week after my 18th birthday, I walked into a pub and did lingerie waitressing for the first time.
How did that feel?
I was shitting myself.
Of course.
I remember I was like so nervous and I was shaking and like holding my little tray of drinks, just being like stiff arms, like, here's your drink, like high-pitched voice, not really like shaking. And I walked out of that pub shift and I think I'd made like $600 in 3 hours. And I was just like, damn, this is good.
And I'm going to assume here, I should never assume, but I will assume, they were actually pretty kind to you during that as well.
They were so great.
Yeah.
I remember I had one guy come up to me and he was like, oh, is this your first shift? And I was like, yeah. And he's like, you're doing really great. Everyone really likes you. And I was like, yay.
Because I think there's this big misconception around, we obviously have a lot of pubs that might do like a Friday. Yeah. The girls come in, topless waitressing, sell some raffle tickets and stuff.
Yeah.
And, I've been there before, obviously as a younger man, as a tradie and all the things, you pop in with the boys and it's, from my experience, it was always pretty respectful in regards, right? Like you guys are there to do a job, to make your money, do your thing, get out. And whenever I was there, it was always like, there was some cheeky little, comments and things like that, but nothing that was ever over the top. And I'm assuming, again, assumptions, because I'm sure right now, putting myself into the body of the listener, there's so many judgments coming out or thoughts and like, oh, were they pigs or this? Like, have you always had pretty good experiences in the beginning there?
For the most part, in the 15 years, I only had great experiences.
Yeah, wow.
So, yes, there is the handful, and I honestly say a handful of not great experiences, which I can touch on as we go further along. But for the most part, like my energy really creates the space that I'm going into, and I'm very confident. Even like in those beginning stages, I still maintained my confidence, and that really comes through in the jobs. And one thing I have always said through the whole time I was in that industry was I was treated more like a piece of meat in a nightclub wearing a pretty dress than I ever was being half naked at a job.
Yeah.
You know, like when you go into that space, and this is in Australia, so if there's any international listeners, this is purely within Australia, so I can't speak for what it's like overseas. However, here, you go into a job and those guys know what you're there for. They know what you do. They have a good look, but they are genuinely really interested in you and having a conversation with you. And yes, there always is that one guy at the job that's just a little bit of a creep. But there's usually more than one guy at a job. And you can just spend your time with the other people and you don't have to be with that one guy.
Yeah, I love that. And it's such an interesting take on it because so many people have this common misconception. I myself was actually dating a woman who was in the entertainment industry herself. And she literally would go there as the girlfriend experience.
Oh, yes.
Right? So she would just have to show up. Obviously, there was a little bit of nudity and stuff like that, but I was so secure in myself. I was like, yeah, cool. Go do your thing. It's fine. But she was literally there for most men. Some of them, they'd literally just be fully clothed and they just wanted someone to talk to.
Yep.
It was connection they were after.
It's honestly, while I was in Perth, so I've had many layers of my time in the industry in 15 years, and I spent 4 years of that in Perth. And I think for about 6 months, it would be around that time frame, every single Tuesday, I went to an old man's house and it was just one-on-one. And I'm just going to pre-frame as well that I have never been an escort. I have never exchanged sex for money. This is purely adult entertainment. So lingerie, topless, nude, waitressing and shows. So I went to this guy's house every Tuesday for 2 hours to be nude with this old man who also wanted to be nude because he was an exhibitionist. And in a world where that is so shamed and so taboo.
Oh, they're creeps.
Right? He found comfort in the strippers and the waitresses who would come and spend time with him and not judge him. He would cook a 3-course dinner, buy the most expensive champagne, and we would play pool and just hang out and have like a date without our clothes on. And he never looked at my body. He never looked at my body. He was just in this world of being an exhibitionist and being nude and
This
having that
raw
desire.
human experience.
Yes.
Oh.
And I think he would have been in his 70s at least.
Yeah.
And he just wanted to have a beautiful woman that he could dote on that accepted him in who he was.
Something you've always said in the past, which I've always loved, which is you can't yuck someone else's yum. So, and I think, I know this to be true, is that, especially with a lot of people I talk to, is that so many of their fantasies get shamed, not only by other people, but by themselves. Yeah. And I don't think people realize how important sexual fantasies, education, information, everything around sex is so important within our life. Yes. Especially relationships, right? Yes. But it's not just external relationships, it's relationship with self. So I'm assuming in the beginning days, you started to learn so much about yourself because you were in that industry.
I honestly put my openness in sexuality down to being a stripper for so long.
Yeah.
Like I can honestly say that in that time and to the depth that I went to in the industry really opened me up to this world that there is kinks, there is desires, there is things that people have and they just want to have that safe place to be in it. So whether you're the stripper at the Bucks party who's just providing entertainment for the boys, or you're the waitress with the old man just creating connection, or whether you're the woman going and having dinner in a corporate experience with a bunch of old men who just want to have a pretty girl at their side, whatever it is you're doing, you are so exposed and open to people's kinks and desires. And if you really go into the psyche of that, it is so exciting and so beautiful. I spent a lot of time in the showgirling scene. So I spent years in the showgirling scene, actually, touring around with Sexpo and a lot of these places that kinks are like the world. It's everything, right? And to go to the extreme of a kink that I friggin' loved to witness, it's not my personal kink, but I love to witness. There was a couple at Sexpo who used to come to every single one. And the woman, she was the dom, probably still is the dom. And she had this beautiful, like, mistress black leather outfit. And her beautiful sub either was a dog or a horse. And in the costuming, it was full leather, like full dog face or horse face. It was all made out of leather. And her beautiful sub would walk around on all fours and would get so excited. So when he was a dog, he would embody this like puppy mode when he saw me. And I'd be like, hello, good boy. And like, it's for a lot of people listening, they'd be like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
But again, don't yuck someone else's yum, right? These people have these beautiful kinks that make them so unique. And we're in a world that shames that. And the part of the reason why stepping into this podcast was like, I'm so done with shaming. And whilst I'm embodied and so fucking empowered in what I've had in my past, I haven't spoken about it publicly the way that I am choosing to right now with you.
Isn't it interesting just on that, you know, and I'd love to go in a little bit into kinks and what that does for people in their psyche and unconditional love for self and all those things. But isn't it so interesting that something that doesn't affect anyone else personally at all, they have to judge someone for that?
Yes.
Because something internally, right, is also going, wow, they get to do what they want in public?
Yes.
What do you mean?
Yes. And if we go into perception is projection for a minute, just dropping from the sexy scene to the NLP scene, it's like actually what part of you is either wanting to be that, wanting more of that, or wanting to express in a way that is so free that you're triggered by people doing that.
Yeah.
So like actually looking at the perception of like, okay, well that's triggering me, that pisses me off, that scares me, that's whatever, I'm going to shame that person because that's not right. Actually have a look at yourself and go, well, where are you not actually owning your kink? Where are you not actually stepping into the freedom of your own expression? Creating spaces where like you go to Sexpo and you dress up like that just because you can and you love it.
You must feel so comfortable at those places because I'm assuming the common theme is that just be yourself, and you're getting to meet people at their rawest self.
Yeah.
Because what is one thing most people try to hide from the public? Their kinks, what they actually love with sex and all the things.
Yeah.
I know for a fact that's one of the biggest shadows for most people. They don't want to talk about what they actually want to do on a deep internal state.
Yes.
It's more of a, nah, man, just normal, missionary, that's all I like.
It's the mask, right? They put on the masks. And like touching on Sexpo, recently I had an experience with a person who really is very triggered by the sex industry. And I journeyed in that with this person, and through that, it really opened me up even more, which I didn't think was even possible. And though it really took me aback of like, gosh, like shaming can be so deep, and self-worth, lack of self-worth can be so deep that people will actually create a story within their own mind that has nothing to do with anyone else, but will shame it so strongly that will actually be very damaging to people who are not fully open for people. Like when I was experiencing this with this person, I remember reflecting, going, fuck, I'm so glad I am who I am, to be sat in front of this person having this conversation and to just know who I am. And then it took me into the reflection of like, but what if I wasn't? I would then take on this person's projections and perceptions of something that they really have no idea about, and is really only just a thing within themselves that they're so detached from owning who they are and their kinks in this life. Like it was such a fascinating new depth for me to go into in the world of shame and kinks and sexuality.
Do you think you called in that experience to be able to allow you to get to this level of who you are now?
So fucking literally, it has put me in this seat right now.
It's so interesting because at such a young age, which, you know, going through Sexpo, showing up to these places at, you know, I'm assuming 22, 23, 24.
Yeah.
When do you think there was an age where you just go, yeah, this is epic? Things started to really evolve. Was there a certain age where it just clicked for you?
Yeah. So when I first started, I was just lingerie waitressing. And then as you evolve, you end up topless. People throw money at you. You're like, oh yeah, cool, it's just boobs. And my thing was like, well, I lay topless on the beach, so I might as well get paid for it. That was my theory at the time. And then I ended up working a job for an amazing company called Fever, run by Lady D. And, oh, if she listens to this, D, I just love you. She opened me up to the world of dancing in such a beautiful, friggin' extraordinary way. She I'm not too sure if it's still running now, but she was a female dance review. So it was full proper production. I was just waitressing at this job, and then these women just came out on stage and they got costumes and props and big music and big choreography. And I was like, I need to do that. I want to do that. That is amazing. And they only went topless at that point in time. And I was like, wow, this is like burlesque, but like bigger, right?
And where was this?
This was in New South Wales at the time.
Yep.
Yeah. And yeah, I auditioned. I got put in the show. I was given my own solo straight away. And then I was touring. And so for me, all I ever wanted to do was travel. I am from the Central Coast. I'd only ever been to Sydney. I'd never, ever really been anywhere else. Never been to Queensland, never left the state. And then all of a sudden I was touring. And I was going to Queensland. I went to the Gold Coast for the first time. I went to Victoria. Went to like little towns and big cities in Australia. And I was like, wow, this is my life. I'm making lots of money and I'm dancing and I love this.
Did you have a stage name?
Shani.
Shani. Yeah, right.
And yeah, so then I was doing that. And then my beautiful best friend and I went and worked in Karratha in Western Australia. She got this opportunity to do the contract work in the mining towns. So we went and did that. And then I made a lot of money, like $10,000 in 7 days. I was like, what is this world? This is amazing. And so I would have been 19 to 21 in that time. And when I was 21, I was living in Karratha. I actually went and lived there. And I was with a guy and then we broke up. And then I left and I went to Perth. And then I went into the clubs for the first time. And that then really solidified myself in the industry because exiting the relationship that I was in, I had this like level of empowerment of like, I am doing this. I am making the money. I am going to go traveling. I'm going to go get my boobs done. That was a thing at the time. And so I did. I went to Perth. I lived in Perth for a few months and I worked in the clubs. Then I went to Melbourne for a friend's birthday and didn't leave for 18 months. And I worked in the club down there and I travelled. I did a Euro trip. I got my boobs done. I did Thailand. I travelled back and forth in the country doing mining town contracts and all these places and getting paid to go to these places. Like it was beautiful, ridiculous, another world. And then I met my future ex-husband in one of those mining towns and then ended up travelling around the country with him in a Navara. And it was so fun. It was such a beautiful time, beautiful experience. And then we ended up back in Perth. And then I was 22, 3. And that was when I really stepped into owning who I was in the industry and where I really just went all in. I made the decision. I'm like, right, if I'm really going to do this, I'm going to be the fucking best at it.
How old were you then?
I think I was 23.
Yeah, cool. So I'm going to come from a place of someone that's listening.
Yeah.
Like I know so much about you.
Yeah.
I have my own beliefs, which I'm like, yeah, this is fucking awesome.
Yeah.
I'm going to come from the place of someone who's going to question the industry, right?
Yes, give it to me.
So what would you say to anyone that's like, oh, but how could you sell your body? How could you do that? What sort of response would you have for that?
So there's been layers to that response over the 15 years of my life in the industry.
I bet.
And I've hit a new layer just recently after watching a movie. Anyway, so at first, it was literally as high chunk and simple as like, if I'm going to do it, I'm going to be the best at it, and that's it. And then it became this like, fuck, I make amazing money. Why wouldn't I do it? Like, it's a body, who cares? To then being in this like, I am so empowered in my body and I love my body so much that I would be naked on a beach if I wouldn't get arrested, right? So why on earth wouldn't I be naked at a party and being paid for it and having fun? And showcasing my body, teaching people through their sexuality that they can be naked, and it's so fucking normal. We are born naked, probably die naked. Like, you know, it's a beautiful body, and this language of sacredness around our body is really only the sacredness within ourselves. Because so many, I will challenge that, like, well, it's your sacred body. It's like, well, what do you feed yourself? Because the sacredness for me is internal. So I feed myself with organic whole foods. I drink clear filtered water. If I drink wine, it's organic wine. You know, like for me, that's the sacredness of my temple. The external, how I choose to showcase that to the world, is really based on your own beliefs and conceptions of yourself. And
there's a reason there's an industry for it.
Mate, there's a whole thing, right? Like this like sacredness around sexuality. I am a sexuality coach. Yes, sex is sacred, and who you choose to allow into your sexual being is important. But how you actually just show your body is just based on who you are and what you believe to be about your body. If you are not showcasing your body and you have shame and telling people that they should be shameful about showing their body, I challenge you to look at where you're being shameful about yourself, where you don't love your own body, where you hide your own body because you don't love it. That's what I would challenge. And then this new depth that I've recently just landed on, I watched the movie Sound of Freedom, and to be a little bit sad for a moment, you know, there are very, very, very young girls in the world being used for sex trafficking, and they are slaves. If I can show my body by choice and be empowered in it and love it and get paid so fucking well for it and feel so safe, like, that's a privilege. Like, I'm privileged to do that. Yeah.
Epic response. And I'll keep going with the questions that might challenge it. So I read something the other day where this woman put up a video saying, if my husband went to see strippers before we get married, I'd be running the other way. How do you feel about that sort of stuff?
I believe that's insecurities. I really, really invite men and women, because this happens with men too, to explore why that makes you insecure. If there was something that happened to you in the past where maybe you were cheated on with a stripper or cheated on with someone and there was nudity involved in some way, shape or form, right, in that way. It's really just an insecurity of self. And when you come to a depth of secure, you know that your partner, man or woman, can walk into a room naked and they only have eyes for you. And they can walk into a room of people fully naked and they will only have eyes for you. And I fully wholeheartedly believe that. Like, I'm such a freaking secure person that I know that whether it's a room full of people or a room full of people and I'm naked and they're naked, whatever the scenario, I'm so fucking secure in my relationship because I'm secure in myself.
Yeah. Do you feel it comes down to boundaries?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. There definitely can be boundaries.
Like energetic boundaries, not even having to verbalize it. It's just that, as you said, you're so secure in yourself.
Yes.
People will feel that and they won't try to cross those boundaries.
Absolutely.
It's like how you show up.
I was married and I was in the peak of my stripping career. Married. Like, really let that land, because for me it's just normal.
Yeah.
But I've learned that it's not actually apparently a normal thing, right? Like, I wore a wedding ring. And it just says how it was. I would have guys go, "Oh, you're married. How did your husband go with this?" And I'm like, he loves having his weekends to himself. He loves the money I bring home. And they're like, yeah, touche. That's it.
Literally. And there'll still be those questions of like, oh, but how could he be okay with that? And it's like, well, like that video I posted last week.
Oh yeah.
Of there was two younger girls in the club, obviously old enough to be in the club.
Yeah.
Videoing the dad going, hey dad, someone's hitting on mum, and he just sips his drink. He's like, cool, she's beautiful, that's normal.
Yes.
And just walks off.
I actually and then I watched Sex Life recently, and I had a moment in that show where the couple go out and they're at like this art museum thing, and the female partner is attempting to hook up with a different man in the room, and the male partner is attempting to hook up with a different woman in the room, but they don't actually hook up, they're just doing the motion of it. So like creating that like tension and that energy of like, oh yeah, do you want to buy me a drink? Oh, yeah. Like, you know, that passion and that excitement of potentially hooking up. But they don't actually hook up. And then she walks out, the female partner walks out into like a corridor, and then he just walks out after her. And then they meet in the corridor, and he just looks at her and he's like, fuck, that was so sexy watching another man want you so badly and knowing that I'm the only one that gets to have you. And I was like, oh, hello.
Imagine the passion in that relationship.
Right. And whilst I'm not suggesting to go do that, because you have to be very secure in your relationship to be able to do that. However, like just that is a great display of two secure people and also two kinky people.
Yeah. And I feel it comes from that level of knowledge that we receive at school. Like the sex talks are fucking useless at school, right?
Oh, yeah. Drives me nuts.
It would be better if we were just so open about what actually happens. This is how you deal with the thoughts if you're having this, this, and this.
Yes.
If we actually just told the kids straight up, hey, if you're thinking about this, this, and this, it's actually okay.
Okay.
Or if they feel safe enough to share afterwards, securely, one-on-one, hey, I'm having thoughts about this, this, and this. And it's like, okay, well, maybe that's not great. So we might have a bit of a chat into that, where that's come from.
Yes.
And you start to uncover things before they evolve into things that might not lead down the right path, right?
I know exactly where your thoughts are going with that. And like, I will briefly touch on that because I will challenge our society with, I don't really want to word this well. I will challenge our society when we are sexually liberated and safe in our kinks and safe in our sexuality and know how to find the resources to play out our kinks safely, humanely. I will challenge our society in its current state with rapists and potentially pedophiles. Like I wholeheartedly believe that in a world where it's not taboo, those things will dissipate and become non-existent.
And I'll expand on it with what's to shift to another subject people might understand at a easier level.
Yes.
Because it's a complex subject, right?
It's so
people
complex,
will go, the cognitive dissonance will kick in and go, what the fuck?
I want everyone to know, like, I do not condone that behavior whatsoever.
Not at all. And so the conversation would go then, look at what happened. I can't remember the country, but they legalized drugs, right? Mm-hmm. The issues with drugs went down significantly. Yeah. Because they just go, yeah, cool, if you guys want to do it, sweet. It takes away that little bit of naughtiness, the illegality, you're not allowed to do that, this, and this. And then all of a sudden, because there's not suppression of something, there's not that feeling of they need to
do it.
Right. Yeah. So, I agree. Like there's so many things that are just shamed, which then we teach ourselves to shame ourselves.
Yes.
Which then that shamed part takes control of us. And then it plays out. Yes. So it's like if you have jealousy within yourself and you shame it, you'll actually probably become more jealous.
Yeah, and I call it like the champagne bottle, right? So it's like you've got your champagne bottle, it's got a cork on the top, and like you are the bottle. And when you shake things up and shake it up and shake it up, all the tension builds. But if you don't pop the cork, it just keeps going back down. And then you shake it up and shake it up and shake it up and it goes back down. And when I'm talking about the shaking up, I'm talking your kinks that pop in your mind every now and again. The thing that you want to do but you don't do because it's not okay apparently in your world. You know, the things that you want so fucking badly that unconsciously that you're consciously pushing it back down in the bottle. And eventually those things will hit the bottleneck and it will get so tight and so squeezed in that bottleneck And then one day when you have a drink or you take a drug or you have an argument, that fucking bottleneck is going to fly off. And when that bottleneck flies off, that's when abuse happens. That's when these things happen unconsciously in the most extreme way, because that tension has been built up and built up and built up and sat in the bottleneck for so long. And you just, like, when you think of a champagne bottle, when you just release it just enough, that thing flies off. And so how can we create a society that is so safe in the taboos, that is so released of the shame, that has access to resources to play out what they want to play out in whatever way, shape or form they can, so that bottleneck never fucking happens. It's just a free-flowing bottle.
That's big. And I know myself that when I finally had a safe enough partner, well, even my friends like yourself, and I could share my fantasies with you, just talking about it, then released it.
Yes.
There was no more, oh, actually I don't want to do that anymore.
Yeah.
Because I expressed it, and it was like knowing where it came from.
Yeah.
So all of a sudden, as you said, that bottle just goes, bleh.
I literally had a partner who, like, one of the first nights that we spent together, I was like, so tell me about, like, your kinks. You know, this is a very normal conversation for me to want to have all the time. And I'm like, tell me, like, what's something, a desire that you've never had met that you just want to do? And he got so nervous and shaky and really like, oh, fuck, like, ooh, I can't believe I'm about to say this. And I was like, just say it. I'm the perfect person to say these things to. And he expressed that he really wanted to do things with another man. And I was like, great.
Cool.
This is great. That's sexy. I love that, you know.
Imagine being met with that. Yeah, being met with that, the love, the understanding, not judgment. Yes. Something in him goes, oh, fuck. Oh. Okay.
Yeah.
Actually, I don't want to do it anymore.
Me, I was like, can I watch?
Yeah. Man, it's so freeing. And I think that goes for anything that we want to talk about that we have been told to suppress and shame.
Yes.
If it's met with that kind of response.
Yes.
Wowee.
Yeah.
What a difference.
And this is why I wanted to do this podcast and bringing it back into stripping, is like, whilst I'm so happy with my life and I love my life and I'm so empowered in what I've done, I haven't freely spoken about that.
Yeah.
And I haven't freely just opened up that topic. And so for me, it's actually showcasing that it's not shameful. I fucking love my life. I've made millions of dollars and traveled the world, bought a house, bought cars, bought my ex-husband a Harley, did a wedding.
Dated Hollywood stars.
I dated a Hollywood star. That's another podcast. Everyone's going to be like, what? You know, and it's like, I've had an extraordinary experience to the point where if I was to really go down the timeline, we would need a lot longer on the podcast, FYI. But if I was to go along the timeline of, like, from when I was 18 to this very moment now, you would look at the last 5 years of my life and go, wow, that's really boring compared to the past. However, that past was so extraordinary that I'm so happy in the mundane now, and also empowered in the, like, I had that part of my life. Now I just love being a coach and helping other people either create the extraordinary and love that, or create the mundane and love that. And to have so much empowerment that shame just does not exist in what they are and who and choose to be in this life.
That's big. So
I love all of it.
Speaking to anyone, not just women, because I know there's men doing this stuff too, that are in the entertainment industry.
Yeah.
What would you say to them to help them feel, you know, I know there's a lot of shame around it, as we said before.
There is, yeah.
What are some things you would say to them to help them feel empowered in what they're doing? Because there might be a lot of single mums out there.
So many.
Well, the partner I was seeing, she was a single mum, 3 kids, right?
Yeah.
But the amount of money she could make and the amount of joy she had, because she was mainly just talking to men, and making good money, where there's an industry that calls for it.
Yeah.
She still had the shame around it. And I always said, at the time when I still didn't understand things, I was like, who cares? You're there, you're doing your thing.
Yeah.
It's a thing for now to build you for your life and for your kids.
Yeah.
Awesome. You know, what are some things you could share to help them feel a little bit better about what they're doing?
So my best friend also was a stripper with 3 kids. However she had at the time when she was stripping. And it's so common for mothers to do it. Women in uni, doing a degree, anything like that. For me, growing businesses, because it is literally the best resource for time and money. It is the best resource for creating so much spaciousness in time whilst also getting paid a lot of money to do other things that you want to do. So you can work a Friday, Saturday night and make $1,000 to $5,000 or more, depending on where you are and who you are and how on you are. And then you have the whole week to be a mum, to do a degree, to build businesses, right? So yes, there is the shadow side of the industry where people get caught up in the drugs and the bikies and the attention that you receive. Yes, there is that shadow side. It's, I would say, becoming aware of where your shadows play out in the industry. So what you're getting from it within yourself, what your intention is for the industry. So what is my intention for this? Great, I'm going to do my degree and I get to do this on the weekends to support that. Great, do that, be that, and just do that.
Just have those boundaries.
Just have your boundaries.
Go there, do my job.
Absolutely. Yep. You know, I really encourage people to not get caught up in the drugs. However, it does. Was
it around you a lot? Like, how did you avoid it?
So I think in the 15 years, I think I went to work maybe twice high. And one time I don't even remember the night. Luckily, I was in a club, so I was very safe and looked after by everyone in the club. And I made a lot of money, and I don't know how I did that. Apparently, I just was on stage just being amazing and people were throwing money at me. And I was like, thank fuck for that. That scared me, though, because I woke up next morning and I was like, I don't fucking remember what I did. And again, gratefully being in the club environment where you're safe and you're looked after and you are there to just dance and to be on stage. And so I was like, okay, great. I'm very safe in that environment. The other time I was out and I was out with friends and then I went to a job after. I remember the whole thing and it was fine. However, that night in the club that I did, it did scare me enough to go, well, this is definitely not how I want to show up in the industry. This is definitely not how I want to be a stripper. And so whilst I went to work and I would have a couple of drinks, I always drove myself. I always made sure that I've never illegally drank, like I'm talking like 1 or 2 drinks. And I always maintained, like my husband I had 2 diaries. So my husband always knew, for example, with my husband, he always knew where I was, always had my backup diary, which had all of my jobs, all the contact details, all of the things. And from that experience of getting high, it just really showcased to me. It's like, oh, it doesn't feel good when you come home and you're coming down for a week after. The amount of money that you make and the feeling of that, it's not there. And so for me, like I got what my internal, I guess it's a shadow and not a shadow at the same time, but my internal enjoyment and kink was coming home and counting the money, sitting on my bed, counting that money and being like, fuck yeah. I remember like there would be nights where my husband would have the boys over and I'd come home on a Saturday night and all the boys would be around the lounge room having beers and they'd be like, how much money you'd make? And I'd sit there and like rain it over them on the couch and they loved it, right? And so for me, like it was very much about the money. And that was like my kink was this, like I felt like a pimp for myself, you know? And so having that intention of what the industry is for you and being so clear on that is my biggest advice. It's like if you're in it for the money, which let's face it, everyone's in it for the money, but then you establish other ways of things that you love about it, right?
That's a big topic in itself where people are like, oh, how could you just do things for money? It's like, well, money, if you have a better relationship with money, money...
I fucking love money.
This whole story, right? You know my story, that was money in the past, right? It was the shame around it and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
I feel like money has been demonized for a reason because if we all really loved money, actually how it is and for what it is and that it's an energetic thing, I feel like so many more people would be so much happier because then they know how to make it, they know how to enjoy it, they know how to keep it, they know they don't have the shame around it, all the things, right? So it's like, as you said, if it becomes about I get to create a beautiful life for myself, there's an industry there ready for the taking that is there for a reason. It's been around for hundreds, if not thousands of years. Right? It's there. Yeah. Someone's going to do the fucking job. It might as well be me.
And this is the whole thing too. Like I've built businesses. I have traveled the world. I've created so much space and freedom for myself in that industry. It's how I ended up in the coaching industry. Well, part of. I ended up in the coaching industry because I was healing my own stuff, realized I got really passionate about it. Then the money, like I was coaching and stripping at the same time. It was brilliant, you know, and like creating businesses, creating cash flow that is just so open and abundant. It's like, why wouldn't you do that? And challenging the money mindset for a second. Like, I fucking love money. Like, money's my best friend, right? I have human best friends and I have money best friend. And money allows me to have an extraordinary life. To sit here on this podcast with you right now on a Friday morning where people are usually in the 9 to 5. To travel the world, to meet cool people, to do all these things. Like, money is phenomenal. Why wouldn't we want more of it? And everybody does want more of it. And some people choose the shame of not having it too.
Yeah, they get caught up in the what's happenings kind of thing as well. I've noticed that all this whole, you know, yes, the world has become expensive. I also don't focus on it.
No.
And because I don't focus on it, I don't really notice it. Yeah.
Just make more money.
Out-earn my spendings rather than trying to budget for everything.
Literally.
You go in the complete opposite way.
Yes.
You know, I'm not giving out financial advice, guys, just saying what I've done.
This is our personal
you know,
on it.
Shan knows my story where I was always broke, literally always couldn't make money, blah, blah, blah. This is very in the past. Now it's like getting clients left, right, and center. And I could see money in my bank now and just be like, yeah, okay, that's pretty good. Now, like 10K might be my zero.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, yeah, that looks pretty good. And it's not
like, oh my God, I'm running out of money and you got 10K.
Literally. And like, you know, getting the new car and being able to afford a beautiful home and nice groceries that feed me and keep me healthy and my partner, all those things. And it's like, well, rather than sit there and go, oh, the world's so tough and it's so hard. Fucking oath it is. I get that, but I'm tougher too.
Abso-fucking-lutely. Like, you incarnated here for a purpose.
Yeah.
You've got the balls and the guts and the grit and the pussy to fucking do it.
Yeah.
So do it, right? And for me, extending on like, yes, I want the nice, like cars, home, traveling, everything. Hands down, I'm here for it.
Bougie vibe.
Bougie, that's me, right? On that though, the more money I make, the more people I can help. And I don't just mean the people who pay me with coaching, because, yeah, I help them. But I'm talking about the young girls in the sex industry, in the sex slave industry, the trafficking industry. I'm talking about the starving kids. I'm talking about
animals.
Because
you've still got your foundation, yeah?
Still got my foundation. Still, it's a bit of a shadow at the moment because I'm busy.
Yeah, of course.
And, you know, like, the more money I make, the more fucking change I can make in this world. Like, I've hit such a depth of like, holy shit. Like, again, that bloody movie, Sound of Freedom, everyone go watch it. Holy shit. I walked out of that cinema, yes, sad, but also like, I have to make more money. The more money I make, the more I can give to these young 5 and 6 year old boys and girls who are being trafficked around the world and snatched up from their families. So it's like me making money, and like if I'm like on stripping jobs on the weekend and I'm coaching through the week, whatever I'm doing, I don't care. If I'm making big money and I'm enjoying myself and I'm having fun and I'm supporting my lifestyle and I'm helping the world, bring it on. I'm here for the millions and billions.
Agree, because we need more people like that. I saw recently, I know this will be controversial, but fuck it. You know what happened in Lahaina in Maui?
Oh yeah.
And that bullshit that's going on where The Rock and Oprah rock up and like, we need your donations. It's like, guys, you are a billionaire, Oprah. The Rock's a multi-millionaire. And yet they can't give some coin. They can't give some money to help. There's kids that there's over 2,000 kids that are missing and they can't even account for them. They literally hit, I think it was the prime minister or president up of the country or of that town, city, to go, yo, where's all the kids at? He's like, we don't know. What the fuck do you mean you don't know? What's actually going on in this world? What is actually happening behind the smoke screens? Yes. Behind Hollywood and all this other shit. This is why
people go watch Sound of Freedom.
Yeah, 100%.
It's clearing the friggin' fog.
Because the director, he's an actor himself.
Yeah.
But he gets labelled as this weirdo and this and this. Nah, he's just clued in and he's not part of Hollywood. He's not part of the bullshit that goes on there, right? And, you know, without getting too deep on that, because if I go too deep on it, the cognitive dissonance kicks in. And
I would just say, and not on the Hollywood sex trafficking side of things, I have no idea about that. I do, however, have firsthand experience in the Hollywood world.
And what it's like, yeah.
And what it's like. And it's beautiful, and there is a shadow. And I will leave it at that.
Yeah. It's and it's just like anything, right? Like I'm sure during your 15 years of doing your thing, there was parts of that world that were dark.
Oh,
that
so
were
dark.
Like,
yeah.
And I'm sure, were there some stories where you like almost got pulled in there and you had to like run the other way?
So there's only one job, which is so great in 15 years, that I felt in danger at. I have left jobs and I've chosen to, leave early, do the things where, you have to make a choice and go like, I'm being treated disrespectfully, whatever, I'm going to go now. Yes, that happens. One job though in 15 years where I was doing a show and it was disgusting. I was being treated like a pig. And I literally mean like a pig in a slaughterhouse. Like it was disgusting.
What part of Australia were you in?
I was in Western Australia. And you pick and choose your locations, guys. And I think I did it was like a 30-minute show and I probably did like 10 minutes. And I got up and I went into the room, got changed, and I was about to leave. And a guy came in and closed the door behind him, blocked the door with his body and was like, "You're not leaving." And like I went to grab the handle to get out, and he just pushed the door shut. Didn't touch me. I was not touched, but he pushed the door shut and was very upset that I didn't give him his money back, which I never would. For anyone who's never experienced the stripping industry before, you get paid before you start. That way you are guaranteed to get paid. That if anything goes wrong, you leave.
Yeah, you set your rules, and if they break the rules,
absolutely. And we always tell them that when we get there. So he blocked the door, and in that moment, I drove myself. And in that moment, like this knowing kicked in for me, and I just went, if you don't let me outside of that door in the next 30 seconds, my security, who is waiting outside in my car, who I've just texted to say I'm about to walk out the door, is going to come in here, and he knows this address, and he will alert the cops whilst also coming in to get me. And then he just I got daggers, I'll tell you. Got shot, the eye daggers, but he really slowly moved away from the door and let me out. And that was the one and only time in 15 years that I've ever had that.
How'd you go handling that? Because are you pretty used to handling situations like that quite confidently?
I am a very strong person. I was brought up with some hostile experiences growing up in my childhood, and also experienced some abusive relationships. So in that moment, I just compartmentalized. I was like, I know what to say. I can get myself out of here and just get on with it. Not all women are like that.
Yeah.
And it's really important that if you are a woman in the industry and you experience that, to reach out to people, to talk to people, have a coach who knows this shit.
Well, when you know yourself enough, you're happy to stand up for yourself, right?
Absolutely.
So and I think that's why it's so important what you do, because you've lived that experience now.
Yes.
You know what happens. You know what's needed. You know the mindset that's needed.
Yes.
Not only in the sex industry, entertainment industry, whatever it might be, the fucking industry itself of work.
Yes.
And what women, beautiful women especially, that will, it's men, I believe, little boys have been conditioned when they see someone who's attractive, it's like something primal takes over.
Yeah.
And without them actually knowing how to control themselves, doing the things, saying the things, being a certain way, we need to cut that shit out, right?
Absolutely.
And that's what we're here for.
Absolutely. And it's just making it so mainstream. Like in that peak of my stripping industry, when I was touring with Sexpo, I was treated like a queen, like a fucking queen. I went to red carpet adult industry award events. I was nominated. I got trophies. I did shows. I was touring the country. And what I learned from that is one, there is a really beautiful side to the stripping industry where I was on the biggest stages in the country. I was being asked to go over to America to perform and to do these things. And I peaked when I had said, if I'm going to do it, I'm going to be the best at it. I made sure I fucking did that. And though there is also this underworld in it. And if you fall into the underworld of it, you have to be a strong person. You have to be empowered in who you are, knowing that you are so fucking amazing even in that underworld side of it, that you are there to make money. You're there to be a bright, bubbly spark. And I have great showmanship because I got on the stages, I performed, I did the big productions. I utilize that energy going into the underworld too. So when you walk into a job, like your energy controls a room. So if you walk into a job and you're having turmoil and you're feeling like shit, mate, you're going to get that reflected back to you. But if you walk into that job and you are the showman, the greatest fucking showman, and you've got it and you are bright and bubbly and big, you're going to own the room and they're not going to fuck with you. And that is in life. That's not just stripping jobs. That is in life. That is in the corporate world. Like that's something, I have corporate clients who my biggest thing is like empowering them to be in their self-loving, extraordinary energy. So they walk into those corporate anything, anywhere, any job, and they own it. Yeah.
I love that. Can you say there's a crossover between the female stripping industry and the male stripping industry?
Yeah. I've worked many box parties and I've attended many hens parties. And women are wild.
Ravenous.
Yeah. Ladies, I love you and you're so wild. It's an interesting thing. I feel like men get touched more than women do at jobs. Very rarely do we get touched as women. And when I say touched, I'm talking like groping, like grabbing a butt cheek or a boob or whatever. It doesn't happen all that much. Men are more intimidated than women are. Women, yeah, I know. It's like I've been at hens parties and I'm like, wow, like it's eye opening for me to witness it.
Yeah. Why do you think that is?
I just think that women tend to, when they get drunk and a bit loose, they just tend to get wild and they just grab and grope. And I think like there's, looking in the sexism of things, there's a lot about women being over-sexualized. There's a lot about women being sexually abused, sexual assault, all the things. But there's not a lot of that towards men. Sexual abuse and sexual assault towards men isn't spoken about, equally as common, but it's not spoken about. And so I think the unconscious is like men, like some men at parties that topless women are at, probably have like an unconscious like, I'll make sure I keep my distance.
Yeah, I want to make sure she's safe.
Right?
Yeah.
Whereas like women, that hasn't been installed into us.
He'll handle this. He'll love this.
It's just like we just let loose.
Yeah.
So from what I've witnessed, that's what my belief around that would probably be, yeah.
So now having, spoken a bit into it, and obviously we wanted to keep this a certain length.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's so many people wanting to ask more questions, but I know this was more about you, just like this is who I am,
Unleashing.
This is what I did. Your overall experience in the industry sounds like it's been extremely interesting and it's given you so much life experience and it's why you show up the way you show up.
Yeah.
What are some of the biggest lessons you've learned from it to create the woman you are today?
I've learned to love my body.
Which is the biggest, I think, one of the biggest things I still struggle to love my body. I still, men don't talk about it enough that we judge the shit out of our bodies, right?
Yeah.
Because there is a lot expected from us too.
Yeah.
Right. So, that'd be a great first point.
It's huge. So, I mean, when I grew up, like my mum was always wandering around naked. It was always just me and my mum for the most part. So nudity in my home growing up was very normal. And it's just a body, right? Which is common for a lot of mothers and daughters. And then when I started stripping and then really becoming empowered and just comfortable in my body, it really like helped me in my relationships. It helped me show up in my sexuality. That like showcasing my body to partners or potential partners, that nervousness wasn't there. So it allowed me to be more open in that way, which is really, really great. And it's one of the main things I work with my clients on now is this, like I'm always tasking, stand in front of the mirror naked. You don't need to be a stripper to create this for yourself. Yes, that's how I did it. However, like just be naked in front of the mirror. See yourself, see your body. go beyond what you can see. You know, like, yes, I showcase my body and like my boobs and things guys like to look at and women like to look at. However, my legs walk me through life. My hands allow me to touch and do things. My mouth allows me to open and talk and taste and communicate. So it's like, see yourself in your rawness and your beauty, and also go beyond the sexualized part of it. Go to the mechanics of it. How does your body serve you? How does your body help you move through life? Yeah.
Love that. That's beautiful. And moving forward with what you're doing now with your coaching and, you know, everything else, how do you feel you can incorporate this in with what you do?
Oh, gosh. Money mindset, body positivity, empowerment. And it's honestly, right now, for me, doing this is like opening up the conversation to release the shame and the taboo, because so many people come to me and like, you're so confident, you're so this, you're so that. And I'm like, yeah, there's still something I haven't told a lot of people, you know? So it's this like ownership of who we are. And for the people out there in the adult industry or who have been in the adult industry, looking to leave the adult industry, do it with confidence, own it, be empowered by it. You know, if you're in it now, claim it, just own it. Have the conversation around your intentions for it instead of, I just do it for the money. Like, actually, why are you doing it? What's your intentions? What do you get out of it apart from the money? And be really clear about that and be healthy in it. If you're wanting to leave, own it again. How has it served you? Where has it gotten you to? Has it given you the house and the car and the money to do all the things? Have you set up a business from it? Own that. Mate, I set up my business because of stripping. It's brilliant. If it's the body piece, like, own your body. Be like, you know what? Before I started stripping, I was such a prude, right? Now I'm open and I'm out there and I'm excited and I'm showing it all, and my partner fucking loves it because now I just strip off and it's normal. You know, like, really owning it and releasing the shame and the stigma around sexuality. And for me, the stripping industry really led me into being a sexuality coach and leaning into the taboos and leaning into the shame and going like, you know what, I fucking love this. I fucking love this.
And you do it so well.
Thank you.
Thank you for sharing today. It's been eye-opening, because as much as we've known each other and we're so close with each other, there's still things I've learned today where I was like, oh, damn, that's cool.
Do you know one thing I did before we go? And it's the coolest story. And this is like, again, if you go into the stripping industry and you become the best at it, you can have some really wild experiences. I have been on a private jet. I got put on a private jet to go to a job.
Oh, how did that feel?
Mate, it was the coolest thing ever. Oh, like, this is the thing. It's like in anything in life, and this, whether it's the adult industry or anything you choose to do, be the best at it, even if you know it's not for the long term. Just be the best at it because it's serving you right now. It's
the bridge to the life you want.
Yes.
That's okay. It really is okay. Like, to get to this point in my life was selling shit on Facebook Marketplace and eBay.
Yeah.
There's no shame around that.
No way.
I think I made maybe like 20K for the year. Fuck all. I don't even know how I lived, to be honest. And now I've got a business that's easily going to run 6 figures this year, you know? So it's like,
high five.
Knowing that, and still even in saying that, there's something that me goes, oh, I wonder who's going to be like, oh, you just want to throw the money. It's like, again, guys, coming back to what Shan said, there's empowerment within the energetics of money.
Yep. What
it allows us to do. So for me, I want a lot of money. So I could potentially have a health hub where people come to get help for free. Because it's a foundation of some sort.
Yes.
There's the things that we need to do in the foundational levels, which Shan did 15 years to build the life to become the woman she is now. I've done things in the past to get to this point as well. And that's okay.
Yes.
Own your story. Own how it's actually fucking super interesting when someone says, oh, for 10 years I worked in the mines and I had to go through drugs to be able to survive most days. And, you know, a good friend that we know of, Chrissy, and things that you've done, that's okay.
Yeah.
There doesn't need to be shame around it.
I literally, for 3 years of my stripping career, I had my animal rescue. And in 3 years, I rescued over 200 and something animals I collaborated with people all over the country. I rehomed animals interstate, in the state, everywhere, overseas. And it's like I did that on my stripping income.
You made that.
I did that.
Individually.
Like I did that.
You know,
then I had a great team who helped me support that.
Yeah, was Abs part of that?
Absolutely. Sure.
Yeah.
Abby.
Abs,
legend.
look at her behind. Are you enjoying that? Yeah. Yeah. No, this has been epic, Shan. And is there anything you'd like to leave with anyone before we finish up?
If you have any questions or you're curious or you're triggered, just message me.
Lean into that last one.
Lean into it. If you are triggered by anything that was said, actually message me and you go, you know what? Like, even if you tell me you hate me, message it to me, because this is a great conversation to open up and it will open up your world so much. Lean into it.
Yeah, I'll add to that because I just met Jacob O'Neill last weekend on Friday. Absolute dude. And one thing he said was he was actually coming up the coast to do a couple of podcasts, met up with me, but there was a guy he wanted to meet because he was a guy that always challenges him on his posts.
Yes.
And he's like, I don't know what it is, but he hates me or something, or just he triggers me and I trigger him.
Yep.
I'm going to go meet him.
Yeah.
I'm going to lean right into that.
Yes.
And there's so much self-discovery. And if the guy just doesn't like him, that's okay. That's fine too.
Literally, like your partners, your relationships.
Yeah.
If your partner is triggering you, lean into it.
Yep.
It will give you so much growth and expansion in your relationship if you can lean into it from a secure place with an open heart.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It's been amazing.
I love you.
I love you. Thank you for listening, guys. It's good to be back. First one in proper one in about 4 or 5 weeks. You know, I've done a couple, but I've just not been there.
Yeah.
In my heart. And there was a part of me that goes, you forgot why you started this. And that can happen. I strayed off track. Now I'm like, I need to come back to what began all this for me. Got the mentorship starting in about a month or so. This will be released Monday, so it's coming out straight away.
Yes.
But yeah, thank you so much. I know a lot of people are going to get a lot from this.
Yeah.
As Shan said, reach out to herself or myself and share this episode, guys, because the more this podcast gets heard by people, the more we help, the more we change, and it just makes it better for everyone anyway. So let's do it together.
Let's do this.
Thanks, guys. Let's go.